Today we will be discussing important parametric tests. The important parametric tests generally we will be using are like z-test, t-test, chi-square test and f-test. All these tests are based on the assumption of normally the source of data which is considered to be normally distributed. In some cases, the population may not be normally distributed, but the test will be applicable on account of the fact that we mostly deal with the samples and sampling distributions closely approach normal distributions. So we'll be discussing one by one. The first and foremost one is the z-test. Z-test is based on the normal probability distribution and used for judging the significance of several statistical measures, particularly the mean. The relevant test statistic, that is the chi-square z-test, is worked out and compared with its probable value at a specified level of significance for judging the significance of the measure what we are concerned. This is the most frequently used test in research studies. This test is used even when binomial distribution or t-distribution is applicable on the presumption that such a distribution tends to approximate normal distribution as n becomes larger. Z-test is generally used for comparing the mean of a sample to some hypothesized mean for the population in case of large sample or when population variance is known. Z-test is also used for judging the significance of difference between means of two independent samples in case of large samples, or when population variance. Suppose if population variance is known, Z-test is also used for comparing the sample proportion to a theoretical value of population proportion for judging the difference in proportions of two independent samples when n happens to be large. Besides this, Z-test may be used for judging the significance of median, mode, coefficient of correlation and several other measures. Another important parametric test is the t-test. T-test is based on t-distribution and is considered an appropriate test for judging the significance of a sample mean or for judging the significance of difference between the means of two samples in case of small sample. When population variance is not known, so especially the t-test is used for judging the significance of difference between the means of two samples when population variance is not known. Single sample. In case of two samples are related, we use paired t-test. For judging the significance of the mean of difference between the two related samples. It can also be used for judging the significance of the coefficients of simple and partial correlation. The relevant test statistic T is calculated from the sample data and then compared with its probable value based on T distribution. At a specified level of significance for concerning degrees of freedom for accepting or rejecting the null hypothesis. It may be noted that t-test applies only in case of small samples when population variance is unknown. Another important test is the chi-square test, which is based on chi-square distribution and as a parametric test is used for comparing a sample variance to a theoretical population variance. F-test, which is also based on F distribution and is used to compare the variance of the two independent samples. This test is also used in the context of analysis of variance, that is ANOVA, for judging the significance of more than two sample means at one and the same time. It is also used for judging the significance of multiple correlation coefficients. Test statistics F is calculated and compared with its probable value for accepting or rejecting the null hypothesis. So these are some of the important parametric tests generally the researchers will be using in day-to-day research analysis. Thank you.